I can now delegate the painting department to the young Leonardo. I can concentrate on the more profitable practice of sculpture. But either way, the angel's amazing. You know when the art historians x-ray it? They x-ray the painting to study it. When they x-ray the angel of Verrocchio, Verrocchio used lots of lead in his paint, and his brushstrokes are very heavy and thick. You can see the brushstrokes of Verrocchio, very heavy, very thick, on the x-ray. When they x-ray Leonardo's part of the painting, the angel of Leonardo, he used no lead in his paint, and the brushstrokes are so fine, there's nothing there. It's like he really created an angel. Look carefully at these two faces. This is the angel of Verrocchio, and the angel of Verrocchio looks to me like a bored choir boy. It's like, okay, whatever, baptism of Christ. Just keep it moving, fill out the paperwork, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Whereas Leonardo's angel looks like, hey, this is a miracle, which is, after all, the subject of the painting, isn't it? And it was another genius, Einstein, who said there are two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is a miracle. And part of the secret of that is sensazione. And you know, it was Plato, the ancient Greek philosopher. You know philosophy, you know what the word philosophy means? The love of wisdom. Curiosità. Curiosità, the love of wisdom. And it was Plato who gave advice for the development of your soul. He said the key to developing the soul and the mind is to begin when you are young to enjoy and appreciate exquisite beauty in all its forms, the highest beauty that you can find in life. He said, and continue this as you go to the academy. That's what you know the idea of the academy, an academic? Do you know where that word comes from? Plato created the original academy. You're in the academy now. This is an idea created by Plato. The terms in which we speak to each other, the logic that we use to defend our arguments, created by Plato. And his advice was continue that study of beauty throughout your life, not just theoretically, but personally. Sensazione, expose yourself, be around the most beautiful influences you can, and this will infuse your soul and awaken the beautiful within you so that you live a beautiful life. Sensazione. The fourth principle for thinking like Leonardo is an Italian word. I don't know if it translates, but we're all going to make, I don't know if you can you see the St. John? It's a little dark there. But this is Leonardo's painting of St. John. And let's all make the St. John gesture. I don't think you can see it here, but the left hand is on the heart. Everybody put your left hand on the heart. Everybody point up to heaven, but across your body. Come on, everyone, let's go, go, go. That's it, beautiful. And then we say the fourth principle, which is sfumato. Everybody, sfumato, sfumato, molto bene. Sfumato is a word that art critics coined to refer to this hazy, mysterious quality in Leonardo da Vinci's paintings. A quality he created with the gossamer thin application of hundreds of layers of paint so that the light seems to come magically from behind the canvas. And what it represents is maybe the most distinguishing characteristic of highly creative people, which is the ability to embrace the unknown. The ability to embrace the unknown. To be comfortable in uncertainty. You see, if you have curiosità and you ask big questions, really big questions, if you have dimostrazione and you really think for yourself, if you have sensazione and you're sharp, won't you have to deal in your life with lots of uncertainty? If you ask big questions, the answers aren't simple. You know, I asked Murray, he was trying to figure out the smallest particle. No one could see it. He had to do this all theoretically with incredibly complex mathematics. He had to go for years, and they told him, this is crazy. You'll never break the breakthrough. You're trying to find something that no one can see. He went through years of not knowing, years of what many people would call failure. But his curiosità kept driving him to find the truth, to penetrate into the essence of the universe. Finally, he came up with the theory that he thought, you know how he knew his theory was right? Because it was beautiful. That's how Einstein knew that the theory of relativity must be right. You know, he won the Nobel Prize, Einstein. His paper was 3 pages long. Simplicity and beauty. But why did they both win the Nobel Prize? Why did Einstein win his Nobel Prize? Why did Murray win his Nobel Prize? Because they were both right. Once the equipment was available to test their theory, they were able to discover, oh my God, this leap into the universe, into something that no one can see, this incredible journey of the imagination, predicted real phenomena that we can now measure. But for both Murray, for Einstein, and for you and for me, our lives have lots of unknowns. You've watched the world change over the last few years. It's going to change more. What will the job market be like when you're entering into it? Will there be even more pressures than there are today? What will the world's geopolitical situation be? Lots of unknowns, yes? But one of the great secrets of happiness, fulfillment, and success in life is to maintain your purpose, maintain your vision, maintain your focus in the face of the unknown. That's why she's smiling. She knows this secret. So you know this is the most famous painting in human history? It's the most recognized image on the planet today. Everywhere in the world, too. Not just in Mexico and the US, but I was in India, Japan. Everybody knows her. So what is she smiling about? What is she smiling about? Let's find out. Everybody please imitate the Mona position and imitate the Mona smile. Everybody imitate the Mona smile. Even those of you who are standing in the back, you can still do it. Do the Mona position, do the Mona smile. Now I want you to concentrate on your Mona position and your Mona smile. This is the easy part of the exercise. Because what I want you to do is look around at everybody you can see, and let's see who in this room has the best Mona Lisa smile. Right? So I'm looking around, I see lots of good ones. I see lots of good ones in this group. Very good here in the front row, but also the back row. Even the camera guys got the Mona Lisa smile going on. Let's see back over there, got some good Mona smiles. Very in that corner, lots of good Mona smiles. Very good. Oh my God, you look just like her. That's fantastic. So, how does it make you feel when you smile like Mona Lisa? How does it make you feel? Well, I'll tell you, a little while ago, I did a seminar for gifted children in Rappahannock County in Virginia. 80 gifted children, ages 8 to 11, 8 years old to 11 years old. And I asked them, what is she smiling about? And they immediately started to imitate her smile because they have curiosità. That's why they're gifted children. It's still alive. And one of the kids said, she's got a secret. And another kid said, yeah, she knows that everything has an opposite. And then the kids started saying opposites like light and dark, day and night, boys and girls, good and bad, life and death. I asked my average corporate group, what is she smiling about? A while ago, somebody said, I read in the Wall Street Journal that the famous smile was caused by a dental problem. See, Mona Lisa understands. She is the pure embodiment of this sfumato principle. She knows that things are constantly changing and shifting. Look at the background. It's hard to see in this reproduction here, but the background is hazy and mysterious. Leonardo is the first painter in the West who ever captured the background as it actually looks. You know, the way the light diffuses as it goes off into the distance. One thing they say about great art, and I think it's true, why does something last for 500 years? Why is it still fascinating people? Because you always see something new. There's always something to learn. This is how you know if something's really great. And it's also universal. It touches people in all cultures. Right? People listen to Mozart music today all over the world. And I predict they always will. By the way, do you know about the Mozart effect? Do you know about the Mozart effect? So this was at the University of California. This experiment was done about 20 years ago. They played Mozart music to students as they were preparing to do an exam. And their scores on the tests went up. So they started investigating this because it seems that the effect of Mozart, the beautiful harmony and pattern of the rhythms, creates an effect that balances your brain and makes you sharper and more alert and more relaxed at the same time. They call it relaxed focus. So they started experimenting with playing Mozart in different circumstances to see the effect. So they would play Mozart not just for students in taking exams, but also in hospital wards. They play Mozart music in hospital. Also Bach seems to work, other beautiful classical music. And they find that patients get better faster. Did you know about this? Patients heal faster when they listen to Mozart music. But here's the best part. The nurses who work in the ward where they played the Mozart music report better job satisfaction. So then they started playing Mozart music in plant nurseries, in gardens, and the plants grew better. There's a number of, have you heard of the great winemaker Aurelio Montes from Chile? He plays Mozart music to his vines. Did you know that? My favorite example, though, is that they did one study where they found that when they played Mozart music to cows in the dairy, they gave more milk. They call it the Mozart effect. The fifth principle for thinking like Leonardo da Vinci is arte scienza. Everybody say it with big gestures. Arte scienza. Arte means art. Scienza means science. Leonardo said balance art and science, logic and imagination, reason and intuition. He said, in contemporary terms, he said, use your whole brain. So we know this is a great work of art. But you know what the scientific elements are that make this great? The scientific elements, a profound study of mathematics, proportion. Leonardo set the format for portraiture going forward from these masterpieces. There's another one in the National Gallery in Washington, D.C., called the Ginevra da Benci. And the way he positions the figure, this triangular positioning, was worked out through very careful mathematics and geometry. If you see the great paintings of Raphael, the portraits are all based on the same geometric pattern that Leonardo established. Leonardo was Raphael's hero. When people first saw this painting, they thought it was alive. It's almost like they could see the pulses beating because Leonardo was so anatomically accurate. This is a masterpiece of the science of anatomy. Those 30 dissections from 3 different angles. Leonardo says in his notebooks, he says, don't even think about trying to be an artist without studying science. He said, if you haven't studied anatomy, he says, the muscles and bones that you draw will look like bunches of nuts and radishes. It's hard to see in this reproduction, but if you look in the background, the rock formations, this is the beginning of the study of geology. The plants, the beginning of the science of botany. The way he does the atmosphere and the flow of water were scientifically studied. And this was new. This was new at the time, after 1,000 years of the Middle Ages in Europe. So this is a scientific masterpiece. And the lesson for us is just as important 500 years later. We have to use these two elements in harmony, logic and imagination, not either or. And especially now, it's even more important now. The world is so complex now, you cannot do well with just half your brain. You need the whole thing. So what's the identity of the Mona Lisa? Who is she? Well, have you seen this? This is the computer graphic comparison of Leonardo's self-portrait with the Mona Lisa, showing that they're identical in every proportion. But you know what we also know now? Do you know who Mona Lisa also really is, besides being a self-portrait of Leonardo? She's Mrs. Gioconda. When you go to, other part of your field trip assignment is to go to Paris and go to the Louvre and see the Mona Lisa. When you see it, it says in French, do you know what it's called? Anybody know what it's called? La Gioconde. In Italian, La Gioconda. Because this is a portrait of Mrs. Gioconda. Francesco della Gioconda was a nobleman, and it became popular in the Renaissance to give your bride-to-be a painting from a great master, a portrait. So this was Mona Elisabetta Gioconda, nicknamed Mona Lisa. But you notice that the painting never entered the Gioconda family collection, did it? Because Leonardo fell in love with her and took her with him to France, where he lived for the last 3 years of his life under the patronage of Francois I. The next principle for thinking like Leonardo da Vinci is corporalità. Everybody say it. Corporalità. And it means to balance the body and the mind. So we tend to think of geniuses as just up in the mind and up in the clouds, but every genius I've studied has tremendous physical energy and power. And Leonardo, one of the greatest among them. He was renowned as the strongest man in Florence. He was a master horseman. He was a fencer. And you can imagine how happy I was when I discovered through my reading that he was also a juggler. He gives advice on health and wellness that is as relevant now as it was when he first wrote it 500 years ago. He says, learn to preserve your own health. Isn't that what today we call holistic health? He says, be responsible for your health and well-being. He says, avoid grievous moods and keep your mind cheerful. Isn't that today what we call psychoneuroimmunology? Tells us our attitude affects our immune system moment to moment. Do you know that people with a positive attitude outlive people with a negative attitude by more than 7.5 years? According to Dr. Becca Levy's long-term study of 650 subjects. Do you know that people with a positive, optimistic attitude make more money? They don't get sick as often. When they do get sick, they recover faster. They outperform the scores of their aptitude tests. So in other words, people with a negative attitude die sooner, get sick more often, take longer to get better, make a lot less money, and underperform the scores of their aptitude tests. You think it might make sense to choose a more optimistic attitude, doesn't it? See, the pessimists in this room are saying, oh my God, it's really hopeless for me now. I'm losing money, I'm getting sick, it's no... But you can change, that's the point. And one of the secrets, it's a really curious thing, what we've learned is one of the secrets of a positive attitude is movement. It's movement. It's getting in a movement every day. Some form of practice of movement, whether it's just going for a walk, dancing, playing a sport, playing football. By the way, well done against Brazil. I was rooting for you. It was great. I couldn't believe, 43 seconds went up by one goal? Right? We were saying, we tuned in, it was like, we're up 36 seconds. See, people know exactly, right? Because it changed the whole country. It was fantastic. So whatever it is you do, it doesn't matter what you do something active every day. And then Leonardo says, eat the healthiest, most wholesome, fresh diet that you can. It was easier to do 500 years ago in Tuscany than it is today. But he says, wholesomeness, it makes sense, doesn't it? If you want energy in your life to meet your challenges, don't you want food that is most alive and fresh? Do you know what I had last night for the first time? Escamoles. They were dancing around in my little plane. They were fabulous, though. They were really great. I have escamole energy today. Right? So he says, eat lively, fresh, wholesome food. Get exercise every day, and get enough rest. Get enough rest. So it's really interesting. I was listening to the radio when I was driving to the airport yesterday morning, and they were talking on the radio about a study that shows that when students stay up late at night and cram and wait to the last minute, it actually affects their academic performance negatively over time. That one of the missing links for really high level academic performance is just to get enough rest. So if you don't sleep for 8 hours, find some time to take a 20-minute nap once a day. Because guess what Leonardo did every day? He took a nap. Thomas Edison every day took a nap on his desk in the workplace. It's another one of these things that great geniuses do. Corporalita, balance the body and the mind. So this is Leonardo's painting of the Adoration of the Magi. He did it when he was in his 20s. It's a fantastic masterpiece. Can you see the central figure in the middle? Can you see the Virgin? It's the Annunciation of the Virgin. She's there in the center. She's holding the baby. Maybe we can see the next. Do you know that Leonardo worked on this painting? He would work for 14 hours a day, 5 or 6 days in a row, with total intensity and focus. And do you know where this painting is? This is in Milan, which is also part of your follow-up field trip, at the Church of Santa Maria delle Grazie, and it's way up high on the wall. So Leonardo would be up on a scaffolding working on this painting with incredible focus and intensity. But then he would just leave and go away for 2 or 3 days. And the prior of the Church of Santa Maria delle Grazie would get very upset. He'd say, "Where's this Leonardo guy? I have a deadline to finish this painting." He didn't know that this was a genius for all of human history. As far as he's concerned, this is another contractor. I have Giuseppe the plumber, I have Vito the carpenter, I have Leo the painter. It's hard to get good help. But Leonardo would not be influenced by the prior. So the prior complained to the Duke of Milan. Just leave the lights up because I don't think it's going to make a difference. The prior complained to the Duke of Milan, who had arranged the commission. And the Duke summoned Leonardo and asked him to explain himself. And Leonardo said something that you may or may not want to say to your professors. Leonardo said, "Men of genius sometimes work best when they work least." You like that one, huh? See, Leonardo went on to explain. He said, when you work with great intensity, you then need to relax. And it's as though he understood intuitively the principles of the 11 square miles. He said, I have to get out and just be receptive to my imagination. He said to the Duke, he said, besides, I'm trying to paint the face of Christ. He said, I despair of finding a face so perfect that I can use it as a model. And indeed, he left this face unfinished because he couldn't find a face so perfect. He said, I'm also having trouble finding the face for Judas. He said, how do I find a face so reprehensible as to be the face of the one who betrayed our Lord? He said, but If all else fails, I can always use the face of the prior. So this is another principle of great geniuses. They all work with total intensity and focus. Then they relax and jot down their insights in their notebook. Then they go back and test out their ideas with great passion and focus. Then they're receptive. See, I bet, what's the phrase, how do you say, I bet you have a phrase like this in Espanol. In English we say, I could feel it in my gut. I knew it in my gut. Do you have a phrase like that in Spanish? Do you ever say, I knew it in my heart? I could feel. Do you ever say, my bones whispered to me? My blood spoke to me? But here's the problem. Your bones, your heart, your gut, your blood, they don't send you text messages. No, they whisper to you at 4 o'clock in the morning. They whisper to you in the shower or when you're out for a walk. And one of the great secrets of living a wise and beautiful life is to learn to tune in to your blood, to your gut, to your heart on a daily basis. So the seventh principle for thinking like Leonardo da Vinci, is, and we all make this gesture, the seventh principle is connessione. Everybody, connessione. Everything connects to everything else. Everything connects to everything else. So I want to translate all this for you into a very practical tool for thinking like Leonardo da Vinci that can help you learn your lessons and remember what you've studied more effectively. Wouldn't that be a good thing to know? A way of using your whole brain, of integrating arte scienza, making more connessioni between your ideas. What if there was a way that was easier to remember to help you study for a test, for example? So you could walk into the test with all of the, with a just easier and more fun way of remembering all of the lessons that you have learned and consolidating them in a very efficient and effective way. Well, the method is called mind mapping. Who's familiar with mind mapping? It was originated by my friend, Tony Buzan. And Tony will tell you that he was inspired to invent mind mapping by his study of the notebooks of Leonardo da Vinci and Thomas Edison. See, a lot of us learn to try to take notes. We either try to write down everything that somebody said, or we make like an outline or bullet points and we go top down on the page. It's a little slow. It makes you try to organize before you've even generated all the ideas. One of the problems that a lot of us have in trying to think more creatively is that we try to organize prematurely. The way to free yourself from that is to generate first, then organize. And Leonardo tells us this in his notebooks. I'm reading his notebooks, and all of a sudden it just becomes apparent to me that this is the first description that we know of in human history where someone's actually teaching us how to think creatively. You can imagine that for 1,000 years in the Middle Ages in Europe, nobody was saying, oh, please think creatively, come up with your own ideas. It was believed at that time that everything worth knowing was already known. So here's Leonardo in his notebooks, and you got to love this. Have you ever come up with a slightly off-the-wall crazy idea, and you said to your friends, hey, this might sound strange, but stick with me? Have you ever said anything like that? Well, here's Leonardo da Vinci, the greatest genius in human history, and he's saying this to us. He's saying, bear with me. This may seem rather odd. But then he says this great phrase. He says, but nevertheless, you will find it useful for quickening the spirit of invention. Isn't that what you would like to do in your life? Quicken your spirit of invention? He says the idea is this. Look at abstract patterns, like clouds in the sky or smoke from a fire. He says, let your mind go free and think of 1,000 things, which you may then reduce to their complete and proper forms. What's he saying? Generate first, then organize. Don't try to organize all your notes in the beginning. Just jot it all down. Put your creative doodles on the page. Doodle about the topic, not about something separate. But see, this is the opposite of what we're trained to do. People try to put things in order. And they're putting, I have to put this, what goes next? I'm writing this essay, what's the next point? I can't think of it, I have writer's block. Oh my God, how does it fit here? No, it goes there. Then they get distracted and say, okay, I'll start doodling over here. How many people still doodle to this day? It's your right hemisphere trying to escape the tyranny of forcing everything into order before you're ready to. But Leonardo shows us how to be free. He says, take your doodles and make them about your subject. Draw, if you're doing a history exam, draw images about history. And then let your mind go free and just think of lots of ideas that fit with your thoughts on history. Then organize it. This is a mind map. Let me show you the mind map that I made of the 7 principles. And what I'd like you to do, as I talk you through this, if you have a notepad with you, this is something to copy. Because if you copy this, you'll have the notes for this whole talk. What's the image in the center? It's a parachute. Why? Because Leonardo invented it. Yes, and it symbolizes thinking ahead. Who's the figure in the center? That's you. And your human potential. First principle, curiosità. We said keep a notebook, right? Represented with a question. Second principle, dimostrazione. We said learn from experience. You see the 3 views of a